I'd like to call this meeting of the Ascension Parish Council Finance Committee to order. If you'll all please rise, I will ask Councilman Valentine to lead us in an invocation, after which we'll all recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Chairman McConnell. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for the day which you've given us today. Father, we thank you for our health. Thank you for our strength. Lord, we ask you to bless our men in uniform and our ladies in uniform, those across the oceans, Lord, those here at home. Ask you to continue to strengthen our firemen, our police officers, and also, Lord, bless the people of Ascension Parish. Guide us tonight. Give us wisdom to deal with the parish budget and the ordinance of this parish. And we ask all this in your Son's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My colleagues, I'd like to go out of order just a little bit, and we're going to go straight to item number 5, and that is the oath of office for our District 1 Councilman-elect, Mr. Oliver Joseph. I'd like to seat this gentleman as soon as possible and let him take his rightful place with the council. And so I invite Mr. Oliver Joseph to come forward. Our first Assistant District Attorney, Mr. Ricky Babin, will administer the oath of office.
Mr. Marvin Grove was on the agenda to swear in Mr. Joseph, and he contacted me and said he's in a jury trial, and the jury was just released, so he was unable to make it. So, Joseph, sorry about the substitution at the last minute. Would you raise your right hand, please? I, Oliver Joseph.
I, Oliver Joseph.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States.
I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
And the Constitution and laws of this state.
The Constitution and laws of this state.
And that I will faithfully and impartially discharge.
I will
faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all the duties incumbent on me as council member District 1 according to the best of my ability and understanding, so help me God. Congratulations, Mr. Joseph.
Thank you.
I wish you the best. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Joseph, we invite you to come and sit up here, take your rightful place with the council.
Yeah.
And at that time, we will recognize, I think you have several family members who are here with you tonight who obviously are very proud of you for your success in what you have done. Mr. Joseph, if you would like to recognize your family members, we'd be glad to know who they are.
Yes, I have my wife, Terry Joseph. I have my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law, Barbara Washington. My son and daughter, Oliver and Paige. And I have my other sister-in-law, Miss Ola May. And I have on the back row, I have my father, Charles, and my sister, Catherine. And the other, I have my cousin that is from New Orleans that is the blacksmith everyone been hearing about, Darryl, and his wife, Lolette. And my boss at the school board there, Mr. Larry Grant.
Well, we welcome you, Mr. Joseph, and to your family. I would like to say thank you very much for sharing him with us and with Ascension Parish, and we're very proud to have him in our midst, and we look very, very much forward to working with him. So thank you all very much. Now we can move on to item number 2, the roll call of members, Ms. Suzanne. And please let the record show that Mr. Dempsey Lambert is not with us. I believe he's running a little bit late. Mr. Todd Lambert is not with us. Mr. Savoy, is he working tonight? He's working tonight.
His son's confirming tonight.
His son is confirming tonight. Even better excuse not to be here.
Dempsey will be here.
Dempsey's coming a little bit later. So, thank you. Item number 3, there are no chairs additions. Item number 4, the public comment period. As always, we invite comments from the members of the public who are here. We encourage you, in fact, to come and address this body. And Ms. Suzanne Patterson has cards to that effect. If there's something on the agenda that you want to talk about, please come forward, get a card, sign up for it, and mention the item that you want to speak on, and we'll call your name at that time, and we'll deal with it as we come to it. Item number 6, we have a birthday coming up, the bicentennial of Ascension Parish. And we have a Ascension Parish Bicentennial Commission formed. They are putting together a festival, and they have a presentation for us, and I'd like to call forth the chairman, the organizer, the brains, and the art behind all of this, Mr. Lynn Holdridge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. It's sort of exciting to think that Ascension Parish is going to be 200 years old next year. For about a year and a half, we've been looking at different aspects and things to do for this particular bicentennial that's coming up. We formed a nonprofit organization to deal with it. Some of the members on that particular council are the Chamber of Commerce, the tourism for this side of the river, the tourism of Donaldsonville, economic development. We have about 15 people on that particular committee, and we've been working diligently to put together a wonderful festival and different types of things to help us celebrate. I've talked to most of you in here, so I'm not going to burden you with a lot of details since you know about it, and I see you have a lot to do tonight. But if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Other than that, I'm turning it over to the chairman, and we hope that you can help us. We appreciate it.
Lynn, we thank you for all of the hard work that you've put into this, all of the organization and the spirit that you have added to it. I'm very excited that you have gone out and cemented a number of private and corporate sponsorships to help with this. But I believe that it's time for this parish to put its money where its mouth is and to show to all of these people, to everyone involved, that we are behind this project 100%, and therefore the chair will entertain a motion to allocate up to $150,000 for all legally approved expenditures.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Well, that's,
Get a motion.
I'll make that motion.
a motion by Mr. Hillensbeck and a second by Mr. Savoy. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? I love it when this council is united. Thank you, Lynn. You see what you've done for us?
Thank
You've
you
united
very
this
much.
council.
You're good
You're
guys
uniting
up
the
there.
parish. Thank you very
Happy
much.
birthday,
We look forward to
Ascension.
2007. Item number 7. Thank you very much, council members, for that. Item number 7 is the Lamar Dixon Financial Report. We have Mr. Eddie Crawford with SMG who is going to make his report to us.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was great news, by the way. We hope to be part of that bicentennial celebration. You have before you the package we typically bring up here for our monthly report. I typically go to that first number in the lower, I guess it's the half of the page, the 108,833. That is a variance loss for the month of August. So a tough month for us. If you look down in your notes towards the bottom of that page, item number letter E, we got to kind of just explain that big number loss. We were looking forward to having a movie set on the property for the month of August. That did not materialize. We also looked to have an outdoor X Games event. That did not materialize. They restructured. We also looked to have a major motorcycle rally out on the property. That promoter went bankrupt due to the hurricanes of last year. So that makes up the biggest part of that number up there at the top. We've had some maintenance issues that we've had to deal with. Our expenses are up a little more than we'd like to see them. So as you look through these notes, that will kind of tell you the story of what's happening out there in the month of August. We were asked to try to make some progress on the accounts receivable. If you look towards the 6th page of this document, we have collected just since last month $6,998. The Entergy bill is the biggest one we have left out there standing. We have a couple of options here. We've got some folks that would like to buy that bad debt from us, so we're considering those options right now. That would take us down to right now we're down to about $4,200 of accounts receivables that we've got left to collect. That's not including the Entergy debt. I've also included in this package this time some prospective events that we're looking for in 2007. You have that list. We're excited about those. I hope by next month we'll be able to firm up probably 90 to 95% of those prospective events. It also shows you down below there the major annual events that we will have for 2007. And then I've also included kind of the last 3 months of the year, October, November, and December events that are on the books now. We've struggled to change. We have another big event in October that will not materialize because of the storm. So we have been kind of backfilling our calendar to try to make those holes. That's kind of where we stand for August. Quick look at the end of the year. Any questions?
Yeah, I just got one.
And May I note, you can also see on your agenda, we have Mr. Bert Falk, who's our auditor from Falk and Winkler, and I believe he is prepared to answer questions as well. So if you have any questions for Mr. Eddie Crawford regarding his reports tonight, or for Mr. Bert Falk. Mr. Hillensback.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just have two questions. Eddie, Oktoberfest this month, that's a big event.
Big event for us,
We
yes,
make
sir.
money on that one, right?
Yes, sir.
That's
sure
going to
do.
help us bring that number.
It really will. They're growing. Last year, if you remember, we had to move them into the 4-H building. They were concerned. They actually took up a large portion of that building. We've moved them back into trademark this year, but I anticipate they will probably outgrow that space in a year or two. So it's good news all the way around.
Right. I guess thank you. And the other question I have is, how are we doing on scheduling events in the out years? Is the uncertainty of whether or not parish government is going to continue to operate this facility and possibly own it, is that hurting us on scheduling events in, say, the out years of 2007, 8, 9?
It is a concern. When folks talk to us about a multi-year commitment, we have to talk about that with them. We have to say that we have to put that clause in our contract.
Right.
So it's a concern for promoters as they look at us for long-term commitments.
Okay, that's good. All right, just want to point that out. Thank you.
Mr. Savoy.
Yeah. Mr. Crawford, as far as Oktoberfest, do you know off the top of your head what kind of money it brought in and generated last year?
Last year, it generated about $15,000 to $18,000 for us, from rental, and we do a parking fee for that event. Just another thing that we think is going to help that event grow this year, we are doing, you may have heard of this, the haunted house that's going on out there every weekend this month. Those events will run together. One will be in 4-H, so they have offered each other's guests discounts. If you go to the Oktoberfest, the haunted house folks will give you a discount, and vice versa. So that's something that we've been trying to get going out there for quite a while. Is we're trying to get these events that typically would stand alone to share their advertising dollars, share these kinds of incentives for folks to come out there and visit with us. So this is going to be an interesting experiment for us.
Yeah. Mr. Crawford, as far as the number of events, as far as what you budgeted, where are you? Are you hitting your target, your budgeted target?
Yes, sir. We're hitting the number of events. We're hitting the attendance. We're just not making the money out. We haven't hit the big events, or the 3 of them right here in August.
I'm sorry. I see Mr. Burt.
I'm going to address that.
Okay. All right.
In my comments.
That's all I have then.
Does anyone else have anything for
Just one
Mr.
quick
Hillensback?
question. Yeah, does Mr. President, do you have any new information on Lamar Dixon, on possible funding, or that you'd like to share with us?
It'll be in the budget message, some of it, but we'll discuss that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Crawford. Then why don't we call up Mr. Bert Falk? I see Mr. Tom Lejeune also with Falk.
Sure.
and Winkler.
Here, let me pass these out.
last month y'all asked me to go through the materials that Lamar Dixon had been providing and come back with some type of report to you. And what you've got here, and frankly, you may want to turn or tear off the first 2 pages, because I'm going to be referring to the comment notes that I have, as well as the financial information as we go through. And I've sort of got it coded by page number and item so that we can move through it as quickly as possible. About 2 weeks ago, I met, after I got the statements, the August statements from SMG, I met with Gwen and Don and went over, and we spent about an hour and a half, 2 hours going over the statements. Then from that, I sent a copy of what I had put together to SMG for them to go over. And yesterday afternoon, we had a meeting with the administration, President Hughes, Don, Gwen, and myself, as well as SMG representatives, Doug Thornton, Eddie, and Jody, the accountant there, to go over the findings and just sort of generally discuss where we are at. You can see from my talking points that I have 5 major items listed: revenues, operating income, operating expenses, net income, the balance sheet, and just some general comments that I will close with. I think it's fair to say that yesterday that we had a really a pretty broad-reaching discussion and review of where things were at Lamar Dixon. And the end result of that was that they left with a number of questions that they need to address, or issues that they need to address, and with the idea that they would come back to the November Finance Committee meeting and make a sort of a budget report on where they are at in terms of ending '06, as well as looking at '07. I think that the main thing that we concentrated on was just the utilization of the facility. That we would have thought that the revenue numbers would be greater, that the utilization would be greater than it is, and to a large extent they come back and offer some comments relative to that lack of utilization, and I'll point that out as we go through. Mr. Hillensback asked the question about the lack of certainty in the contract, and frankly what I heard yesterday was more concerned about the lack of adequate motel rooms in the parish than I did the certainty or the lack of certainty in the contract. They mentioned any number of events that have been canceled because simply there weren't enough hotel rooms available here in the parish. But let me go through this and step through this as quickly as we can and offer you some conclusions that are still subject to their coming back with a fuller analysis. If you look at page 1, item number 1 up there, that the direct event income is $138,000 under budget, and the ancillary income is some $65,000 under budget. Now, what's sort of interesting is that if you go to page 2 and looking at the circle 2 at the top of the page, the number of events is actually greater than the year-to-date. They've got an actual events through August of 215. The budget was 195. The attendance was 93,000. And the budget was 88,000. And the conclusion that I had come to, and what SMG said at the same time, was that really what that reflects is that there's more activities going on out there, but they're smaller activities. That what the facility is lacking is this signature event that would draw a large number of crowds, a large number of people that might run anywhere from 3 to 4 days to maybe one weekend through the week into another weekend. And, an event whereby, let's say, maybe as many as much as $150,000 in revenue would be generated. So that is that's somewhat of a concern. They, it's the main concern. They pointed out that the the sponsors of these kind of programs that are in New Orleans essentially are have their hands full getting things up in New Orleans, and that next year would probably be a more logical target to get them back in. But while, apparently the number of events is going on is greater, the attendance is greater, they simply aren't big dollar events. If you flip over even to the next page, page 3, this is simply a breakdown of the event categories, and you can see I've identified the ones that are under budget. Now, the big one is the other category right down there, the second one from the bottom. The other category, the actual to date is $227,000. The budget was $369,000. And there are several other items up there that are identified that are running under the budget objectives at this point in time. So obviously, everybody would like to see the revenue greater, that would be indicative of greater utilization. If you go to, coming back to page 1, operating income, which is actually coded, let's just go to page 4. That's the breakdown on operating income. And if you look at this, item number 4, the advertising income was budgeted year-to-date for $75,000, and only $15,000 has been collected. And once again, their comments were that this is just a lack of signature events, major events going on out there. If you come down to item 4 on the bottom part of the sheet, other rental income, it's a little shy of $18,000, and the budget number was $42,000. On the other hand, the non-event RV hookups, item number 5 there, $6,600 was budgeted and $145,000 has been collected. Now, while this category is over budget by about $65,000, no, it's over budget by about $62,000. On the one hand, that's just the RV hookups that are spillover from the hurricane. So really, that number is low. One of the comments that we made yesterday was that in terms of, the budget process needs to be tightened to be more in line with what the expectation or the actual results are involved in this. So coming back to, let me see, I'm getting my pages mixed up. Page 1, if you come on down through this, our total income is off by about $142,000. Right in the middle of the page, adjusted gross income, the actual to date is $614,000, and the budget is at $756,000. Now, if you come down and look at operating expenses, item number 6 on page 1, the facility is $59,000. In terms of SMG expenses, the facility is $59,000 under budget. The most noticeable items for that are under budget or where savings have been made in line with the reduced revenue is employee wages is down $148,000, and the general administrative expenses are down about $39,000. And you can see what's that? Repairs and maintenance is up about $28,000. Insurance about $10,000. I mean, there are a few categories that are over budget, but not that great. We did have some discussion yesterday about the utilities, the cost of utilities. There's still some things that need to be worked out or discussed with energy to see if we can realize some savings in that area. SMG brought up that they had some concern that maybe the utility increases were going to be greater than what the budget are showing at this point in time, and that's one of the things that we asked them to go back and analyze for us in terms of coming back for the November Finance Committee meeting. If you look at the parish administrative expenses, You can see they are $55,000 over budget. The main items there are the facility rent. That was based upon the interest rate, which has consistently gone up during the year, so that's over about $31,000. Insurance is about $10,000 over budget, and there are some various other expenses that have been paid out of the by the parish on behalf of Lamar Dixon, and that's $13,000. So we're like $55,000 over budget. One of the things that we talked about yesterday as well was just the status of maintenance and repairs out there. It is the largest area that's over budget by about $28,000. There was a meeting with the Lamar Dixon Foundation people a month or so ago, and they raised a number of issues as to repairs and maintenance. My suspicion is that there are probably additional items that need to be done to get the facility up to the level that they would like it to be, number one. Number two, it is 5 years old at this point in time, so maintenance is going to become a more significant thing going forward, and that's obviously something to look at. Putting it all together, if you look down on page 1, the Circle A item, the net loss year to date is $352,000. The budget was $269,000, so the budget or the actual loss is about $83,000 over what we would have budgeted. Looking at the parish administrative expenses, they're about $55,000. And bottom line, we're at $634,000 of operating deficit versus $495,000 in terms of the budget, and we're $138,000 below. I would anticipate that deficit is probably going to increase through the balance of the year, but they're to look at their numbers and run them and come back to us with some more reports on this. Going to page 5, this is the balance sheet. Really, the only comment that I have is that cash is at $433,000. I know some money was advanced over to them in the middle of the summer. I think they're probably running at a higher cash balance than what needs to be. That represents essentially money that the parish has put in, coupled with what they've collected from operations. And that's one of the things that we asked them to come back to as to how much additional cash they thought that they would need between now and the end of the year to fund this thing. The aged accounts receivable report, we went over. They've already, Eddie's spoken to that they've expedited some collection efforts. It was brought out yesterday afternoon that they've received an offer to buy the energy receivable, and I think they were pretty much encouraged to look at that very seriously and to go ahead and get that money in hand. It appeared that what was being offered was sufficient to make it attractive to go ahead and to do that and all. The last thing that I have, so to speak, before I get to the comments is found on page 7. And what I did was, and it's not completely accurate, but it's sort of good enough. I looked at the first two columns on the left are the parish administrative funds. The next one is the Lamar Dixon operations from a cash point of view. And then the third column ties into the balance sheet. Actually, if you see the $726,000 there at the bottom of that third column, that ties into the schedule on the balance sheet. Funds received from city, $726,000. It's the same thing here. Looking at the last column, last year y'all transferred in about $243,000 of cash. You paid about $183,000 of expenses on behalf of Lamar Dixon. That's rent, insurance, etc. You come on down, there was another $75,000 in expenses paid this year. Y'all made transfers of $300,000 into the fund, and various expenses of about $311,000 have been paid. So sort of the money that's gone into Lamar Dixon is $1,111,000, or $113,000. The cash, though, that's available at the end of August is $433,000. So the out-of-pocket money is something in the range of $680,000. And if you come down to the bottom, you can see, the rent accounts for a significant part of it, insurance accounts for a good part of it, and then the other is just what y'all have put in towards the expenses to make the facility operate. So while on the one hand y'all have put in $1.1 million, on the other hand, at the end of August, $433,000 is still on hand relative to Lamar Dixon. We pointed out to them yesterday that and I'm moving down into the comments and then be glad to entertain any questions you have. And that is, in a sense, we don't seem to be doing too much better, if any, than what the Lamar Dixon folks were doing. You look at $614,000 of revenue year to date. If you annualize that, that's $850,000. In June of 2004, the second to last year that the Lamar Dixon people had it, they did $811,000. And so we are, from a utilization point of view, we aren't doing too much better than what.
What about on the expense side, though?
Oh yeah, with the expense side is down significantly. Yeah, it is down. But I think we left with a common agreement that it probably should be at $1.3 million to $1.4 million in terms of utilization, as to that's where you'd like to see it as a community activity, as a community resource. To me, the fundamental thing is utilization. And one of the things that they're looking at is their budget for next year. We did talk about how could we take there is $100,000 that SMG has put in for marketing activities, and I think that one of the things that they're going to talk to us or talk to you about when they come back in November is how can they take that $100,000 and try to make something work in terms of getting the revenues up. Because, I think the administration, SMG, readily recognized that $1.3 million was sort of where we needed to be. We asked them to look at what does the remainder of the year look like, and that sort of thing. I think that we need to be provided with some type of schedule of booked events with anticipated attendance and revenues over a rolling 12-month period that they can provide us on a monthly basis. We had some discussion about how can the performance be enhanced over its current status, and once again that gets back to utilization and revenue. And what does 07 look like? Now they've turned in a budget that includes $1,340,000. Their deficit is about $63,000, and that's before you get to the parish expenses of rent and insurance. And we had a discussion about whether or not that was really more optimistic than it should be. And once again, they're going to go back and look at that and come back to the November Finance Committee to give their take on it. So, somebody else, President Hughes may have something to add. I'd be glad to answer any questions that I can in terms of discussion, because it was a pretty freewheeling item. We didn't really talk as much about expenses as we did revenue, other than repairs and maintenance, and that is an area that I think we need some more information on.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Falk. We have a question from Mr. Hillinsbeck.
Yeah, Bert, thank you. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but before we took it over, they were losing between $900,000 and $1 million a year. And we're doing much better.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We're bringing that down. You're right. I think as we bring more events in, more traffic, we're going to bring those losses down and get it closer to a break-even situation for the parish. I guess the question I have, and I realize you're not Dr. Lauren Scott. Maybe this is a question for him. can you comment on economic impact for Ascension Parish of Lamar Dixon remaining open? What does
No.
it mean to our parish here?
No.
And that's something we need to probably look at.
Yeah, you probably would do. I'm going to tell you that my own uninformed opinion is, and I always have an opinion, it may be uninformed, but that you need 3 signature events out there.
Right.
And while SMG's maybe talking about one, I think you need one in the spring, you need one in the fall, and you need something over the summer that may not be as big as that. But, to me, the strong point, the selling point of this is that this is a resource for community identification and participation.
Right.
And if you can't get to $1.3 million, $1.4 million, get some level of revenue, the question is, are you accomplishing that objective? And that's a question y'all have got to ask or answer. But to me, that seems to be the fundamental question. Now,
I've said all along that I was willing to accept some losses.
Yeah.
I didn't want the parish to lose $1 million on an annual.
right.
We spend over $1 million on recreation. We get no return on that. However, that's a quality of life
Yes, sir.
expenditure that
Yeah.
benefits the people of the parish. And this is another form of entertainment, form of recreation that benefits Ascension Parish. That I think is viable, and I think we need to do everything we can to keep it open and secure it.
Mr. Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. Mr. Falk, certainly appreciate the detailed
great
information that you have given us here. I will have to disagree somewhat with my colleague, Mr. Hillensbeck. $1 million in our recreation fund certainly does, when we have the amount of people playing football, baseball, what have you. I would say that the large amount of our local people participate in our local recreation than participate at Lamar Dixon, although they have the opportunity to go to Lamar Dixon. One thing I just want to make clear to the public, as we sit here and talk about budget and $200,000 here or there, but the actual loss that we are sustaining is $634,032, and I think you clarified that on the end of 680 on your back sheet. Is that
Yes.
right,
Mhm.
Mr. Falk? And primarily that's what we've lost. And Mr. Falk said it, and so did Mr. Rome, Jackie Rome, when I met with him recently. Mr. Salvo and I had a recent meeting with Mr. Rome, and he was of the same, had the same conclusions Mr. Falk does, the fact that we're not doing any better than Lamar Dixon did at the time. And
Well,
so,
losses are down.
excuse me.
Losses are down.
Losses down because the events are not costing as much, so that you don't have as much expense. So that's a lot. You can explain a lot of those situations. But we just heard that the utilities may be going up and some other things. So as we look at this budget and listen to our thoughts for next year, certainly this must have to come into play, and whether or not. A lot has been said about the fact whether Lamar Dixon would close if the parish, withdrew its funds from it. And naturally, we do have, and has mentioned, there is someone that is interested in buying Lamar Dixon and running it. And so we have to keep that in consideration. In fact, Mr. Falk even said it. One of the problems they have is hotel space. And the gentleman that wants to buy it wants to build a hotel on it. And so that in itself lends us, or at least should lean us to the fact that we should consider those avenues, and hopefully, if they can come to agreement and take this off of the parish's back, that would be appreciated. But for Lamar Dixon to succeed, it must have a source of income. It must. And it was not afforded that opportunity, and I won't belabor that anymore either. But anyway, thank you for the report, Bert. I appreciate that, and it's very clear here. And thank you, Chairman McConnell.
Thank you. Mr. Savoy.
Yeah, in the report, you mentioned that SMG is going to be putting $100,000 into advertising.
Well, what they're going to look at is there is a they've put in $50,000 last year and $50,000 this year of their money to a marketing program, to marketing events. And one of the things that we discussed yesterday was how could you take that money to look at promoting major signature events. Not that Lamar Dixon would be the sponsor of them, but how can you leverage that money to encourage people to come in with the signature event, Jerry, that would generate maybe $150,000?
My question,
Okay.
what I was getting at is the $50,000 in '06 budget, the numbers that we're looking at, is the $50,000 included in the numbers that we're looking at for '05?
In terms of the budget the parish has put together?
No, I think he means
No,
the report that
SMG.
you just presented.
Yeah.
So-
It is. I mean, if you,
$50,000 that SMG donated to the cause is in these numbers that we're looking at.
right.
50,000.
Yeah. No, it's actually 100. If you come back to page 7, look in the second column, the third line down, contribution SMG, $50,000.
Yeah.
You see it, and then come on down maybe eight lines or so into '06 in contribution SMG, $50,000. So that money has been forthcoming from SMG, and that is parish money at this point in time. That's not money. I mean, it's been given to the parish for marketing efforts and whatnot of the facility.
All right, I'm just wanting to clarify if the bottom number that we're looking at, the $100,000 is included in getting to
It
that
is.
bottom number today.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
That's what I want to understand. All right. As far as cutting the operational costs down, now this year SMG's numbers look better than the foundation's numbers look. Okay. How much money have we spent on maintenance items? Now, there's a list of items that has to be addressed. Had we addressed those issues during the year, what would it cost us to keep it, maintain it?
Yeah, I don't have an itemization.
And then
of
what
that.
would our numbers look like had we maintained
Maintained.
the facility according to the contract?
Right. I think that's something that we would have to get together for the November meeting. I think
that needs to be.
one of the things that we did have a discussion about, or that was covered in our talk on repairs and maintenance, is that when the facility was delivered to the parish, so to speak, that repairs and maintenance were already in a deficit situation, Jerry. So I think that that there's some talking points with Lamar Dixon maybe on that, but I don't know the answer to that.
On the last page, Bert, you've got other, and it comes up to $164,000.
That's just money that's gone in to subsidize the operation at SMG. What I simply did was looked and said, of the $680,000, the parish has paid so much in rent, it's paid so much in insurance, and I can identify that. And then the other money, the $165, just represents the subsidy of operations beyond rent and insurance that has been paid by parish money.
All right. One last thing I want to clarify is we got to note, is this the true hard numbers? And when I say that, who cuts the grass? That's a question.
I would assume
who
that
pays for cutting the grass?
Right now, it's kind of a joint operation. We've taken on the bulk of it. The parish has come out at least twice, 4 times throughout the summer and helped us cut the grass.
That's the type of things that we need to know. What additional manpower work money is coming from the parish's side and add it to the overall cost. That's a hidden cost. I look at that as being a hidden cost.
Okay.
No hidden cost. Okay. That's all I got, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Byriger?
Yes, thank you, Mr. McConnell. Mr. Burt, without a complete and full funding plan or mechanism for this particular facility, is it still as good a deal as we originally thought?
That's a. I mean, is this thing ever going to pay for itself? The answer is no. I think
we always knew that.
Okay, so I mean, I think it's a policy decision that y'all have to make, and that
we asked you to help us with those.
Well, but I mean, I think unfortunately, I mean,
The buck stops with you, Mr. Byriger.
But I mean, the thing I keep coming back to is, how do you gauge community involvement and identity with the facility? And I I can't answer that. Now, being an accountant and a numbers person, I sort of gravitate to $1.3 million or $1.4 million is a threshold amount that I would say that at that level that it's certainly very attractive to the community. You know, the question is, I mean, is it going to, how long will it take to get there? What's involved in getting it there? I don't know the answer to those questions. But, you know, to me, and I will tell you, I made the point yesterday of saying I'm not as concerned about the expenses, so to speak, as I am the utilization at this point in time. Because if they were doing $814,000 2 years ago, I mean, if this thing was doing $1.2 million, I would just, as a personal decision, I would feel a little bit better about it than I do at $800,000.
I think we all decide we could live with a couple, 200-300, but 6 and 7 is getting a little rough.
Well, but I'm simply talking about the revenue and the utilization,
Right.
the community utilization of the facility and the community identity with the facility.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Addy, I would be interested in some more conversation as far as when y'all come in November about hotel rooms needed and different things of that sort. If y'all could concentrate on that, that'd be nice to know that also. That's it.
Thank you, Mr.
Chairman.
Bauerger. Ms. Fontenot has a question.
Well, the only question I had is, I know that our charter says we're supposed to have an independent auditor, so I kind of question why we're sitting up here, you know, putting him in the middle of our situation is what I'm saying. It looked like he's kind of uncomfortable and giving us some answers that we're asking direct questions, and I'm just wondering, should we be even asking them?
Well, you know, I mean, some of this is I don't have a crystal ball.
You're gonna send us a bill for all this, right?
Yeah,
Bert?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can ask the question. You know, if I can answer
Right.
it to you. Mr. Hillensbeck, you had one more?
Yeah, just one, I guess, last question. Bert, if we could ever get Cabela's off the ground and going, that's going to have a positive impact on Lamar Dixon. Don't you think that'll complement that facility?
You know,
He's an accountant. He's not a marketer.
I'm not going.
Mr. Hillensbeck.
You can go ahead and charge us for that answer, too, buddy.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Shakespeare, final thought.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also appreciate the detailed information. This gives us a handle on things. I also like to express my concern for a permanent funding mechanism. I think that's imperative for us to have this facility. I also think that the numbers that we're getting right now is pretty much secondary to anything else we do, because since the hurricane, I think positive and negative things, numbers have been skewed since that time period. There's no way of possibly knowing what happened, what caused this, what caused that, the changes. And I think things will be going, you know, for us to see a trend, and that's what we're trying to establish right now, a trend, whether we're going to continue to lose as much money as we have, whether we're going to make more money or whatever. I don't think anything is going to come to light that we can definitely say anything until the next couple of years. As you see on everything else, there's a lot of people making money and plenty of money in some areas, and a lot of people losing plenty of money in some areas because of the situation of the storm. And I think it's going to take a couple of years to really find the niche of this facility. However, regardless of that, regardless of anything else, I think it's imperative that this body gets together and find a funding mechanism. And if we find a funding mechanism, we can get behind it, and then we can make some long-range plans for this facility. And if not, then you know, we're going to continue to have some problems. So I think it's important that we probably not lend as much credence to the numbers right now, because no one really knows what's going to happen in the next couple of years and trends. Although it's very important. I do appreciate getting this, and it does help us a great deal. But I sure would like to see.
Thank you. Point well taken. And Bert, thank you very much for the presentation and for all of your efforts and your assistance in this endeavor. We appreciate you very much. Before we go on, I would like to recognize some people in the audience. We have hiding, I guess, in the back of the room. We have someone who, for a brief but very memorable moment in time, served with us, the second female to serve on the Ascension Parish Council in our history, Ms. Tamikio Stroud, and we welcome you here with us tonight as a private citizen once again. And then we also have a Justice of the Peace, Dean Smith, who's with us, and he's sitting in the front of the room there.
Can't see him. Where you
Present that to Tamiki. Present that to Tamiki.
Oh, there you are. I didn't see you.
Mr. Savoy, would you join me up here, please, sir? Because we have a certificate of appreciation for you, Ms. Stroud. Why don't you join us up here, please? And while you're walking up here, let me just read this to you. This is a certificate of appreciation from the Parish of Ascension, and it's presented to Tamikio F. Stroud. The Ascension Parish Council would like to extend our sincere appreciation for your hard work and your dedication while serving as councilwoman for District 1. And that's presented this 12th day of October 2006, and it's signed by Ascension Parish President Ronnie Hughes and all of the assembled members of the Ascension Parish Council. And you know, really, she jumped in here with both feet. Come on up here, Ms. Stroud. She jumped in here with both feet. She took over the chairmanship of a very important committee, our Recreation Committee, and she did an outstanding job. In her brief few weeks with us, she gave great insight, great input, and she really was a hard worker. And you know, it's kind of like the Boy Scouts or the Jesuits or anything else. Once we get our hooks in you, we're never going to let go, Ms. Tamikio. And now you are a committed servant to Ascension Parish, and we look forward to many more years with you. But we're very proud to present this to you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity again. I sent out an email earlier, but to thank the council and administration for allowing me this opportunity to serve the citizens of Ascension Parish, as well as District 1. And I was supposed to be here earlier to say, you know, good luck, there you go. But I got here late, so I'm sorry. But I just want to challenge you guys to keep doing the excellent job that you're doing, all the hard work and research. I have found a serious newfound respect for the council. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of research, and teamwork to sit up here. I mean, you think it's just sitting up here, but it's a lot of behind-the-scenes work, a lot of research, trying to figure out what's going on, the laws, the ordinances, etc. But they're doing a great job, and thank y'all very much. Thank
you. Yeah, I think we have another council watcher here. All right, let's move on then to item number 8. Oh, he slid down there. Item number 8 is the presentation of the 2007 budget and the 2006 amended budget. And we have our Chief Financial Officer, Gwen LeBlanc, as well as Parish President Ronnie Hughes, going to make that presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin, and good evening to the members of the Finance Committee. In accordance with the provisions of the Home Rule Charter and the Louisiana State Law, President Hughes and I would like to present to you the 2007 budget as well as the amended 2006 budget. Before we get to the 2007, let's have a quick review of how we anticipate ending the year 2006. But you have this information in front of you. It's 2006 amended budget. Okay. What we anticipate ending the year with is revenues and the required fund balance. And as usual, we have the two component units of our budget, our operating budget and our capital budget. Revenues in the operating budget anticipated to be almost $8 million with related expenditures of $44.5 million. The capital budget has revenues and the required fund balance of $1,065,000 and $8 million, with related expenditures of $14.3 million. Therefore, we anticipate ending the year with a grand total of both our operating and our capital budget of $58.8 million in revenues and $50.8 million in expenditures. A quick look at exactly what happened during 2006 as it relates to the financial position of the parish. Revenues increased by 16.7%, or $7.1 million. Now, as we've discussed, this is primarily due to the increases in ad valorem, our property taxes that was reassessed by the assessor, and an increase in sales and use taxes. And then we also realized some increases in our building permits, franchise fees, and occupational licenses. And at the same time, expenditures increased by 2.7%, or $1.1 million. And that was primarily in East Ascension Major Drainage Fund, Fire District Funds, and the Lamar-Dixon Fund. The net effect is this allowed the parish to absorb an original $4.2 million operating deficit into a $328,000 operating surplus. The increased collections in our sales tax district number 1 provides an additional transfer of excess funds collected in accordance with the ordinance you adopted for the 2006 budget. The excess funds amounted to $1,885,000, and that went to the road construction fund for a total transfer to the road construction fund of just under $2 million. The Lamar-Dixon Fund provides the ability to exercise the option to purchase Expo Center. The initial payment of $250,000 is budgeted in accordance with the terms of the agreement. Now, the capital budget, the revenues decreased by $2 million due to the STAG grant and the LCDBG Hillaryville sewer system grant. That those expenses will be carried over or are carried over to the 2007 budget. And then the expenditures decreased by $9.3 million due to projects that were not completed in 2006 and will be carried over to 2007 budget. So that's a brief recap of how we anticipate 2006 to end. Now, to look at the 2007 budget, you have this information. We've also prepared a little slideshow for you, but you do have the slideshow in front of you also, and it also should appear on your screen. The 2007 budget has been prepared to maintain all the fund balances in a positive mode. And as usual, the 2007 budget also has two component units, the operating budget and the capital budget. The state's economist predicts this area will enjoy the best growth spurt since the late 1990s, and they attribute that to construction projects and a rebounding chemical sector. Although the nation will experience a gradual slowing of the national economy. So a quick look at the 2007 budget will reveal that we have revenues and the required fund balance. We'll look at the operating budget. Our revenues are $46.8 million. Our expenditures are $43.8 million. And you will notice in our operating budget we're continuing that trend of collecting more revenue than we are expensing. Our capital budget has $3.2 million in revenue with a required fund balance of $22.4 million. Now, this is a normal thing. You know, when we sell bonds, the revenue is counted when the bonds are delivered, and therefore, thereafter, the projects will take place, and it may take several years to expend the money, so you would naturally be using your fund balance. That's what it's there for. So the expenditures in our capital budget in 2007 is almost $28.5 million. It's a very aggressive capital budget. So the grand total of the 2007 budget reveals that we have revenues of $72.5 million and expenditures of $72.3 million. Now, we're going to look at where these revenues come from. What do they consist of? First, we'll take the operating budget, and you can see from that chart that of our revenues for our operating budget, revenues are provided by our sales tax, $25.6 million, property taxes and other taxes, $11.6 million, intergovernmental revenues of $3.8 million, licenses and permits of $2.5 million, interest earned and miscellaneous revenues $2.3 million, and fines and forfeitures $728,000. For total revenues of the, again, going back to the first page, $46.8 million in revenues in our operating budget. And you have that little pie chart in front of you, which you can easily see that 80% of our revenue is provided by our sales taxes and our property taxes. Now, how are we spending this money in our operating budget? You can see that 30% is going to public works, $13.5 million, general government, almost $10 million, health and welfare, $8.2 million, public safety, almost $6 million, debt service, what we will pay this year towards the amortization of our debt, $4.1 million, recreation and culture, $1.1 million, parish promotion, $442,000, and intergovernmental, $382,000, for the total expenditures in our operating budget of $43.8 million. Now, if you're not sure, what's involved in all this, like what is public works, we have attached to this your presentation an explanation of what's in every revenue code, what types, like in taxes, what taxes are we talking about besides sales and ad valorem, and it goes down in the list of, it's also beer taxes, franchise fees, parcel fee, and we do that with all the revenues and all the expenditures so that you can look at that later. So that is the operating budget. Now we'll look at the capital budget. Where are the revenues coming from the capital budget? As we just reviewed, $22.4 million is coming from the fund balances. We have additional revenue in the intergovernmental of $2.2 million, interest earned and miscellaneous revenue of $827,000, and other taxes $175,000. And that's actually budgeted for the franchise fees from hopefully a water franchise. So total revenues equal $25.7 million. And then if you go to the last page, where are we spending that? And this is another thing. We have a listing attached to the in your budget of the listing of the capital projects, and they consist of public works, which is $22.1 million, which is the vast majority of it, and that would consist of your drainage construction project and your road construction. And then we also have public safety, which is $3.5 million, health and welfare $1.7 million, and intergovernmental $1.1, which equals the total expenditures in our capital budget of $28.5 million. Now, also before you, we have the public notice, the notice of public hearing that we will publish in the paper. And if you want a good idea of how 2007 budget relates to the 2006 amended budget, because we're amending it also, they're side by side, and that's a separate page in front of you. And what we are anticipating is that the council will introduce the ordinance to amend the 2006 and adopt the 2007 budget at your next week's meeting, which would put the public hearing to be held on November the 16th, 7 o'clock at the parish council meeting. So if you don't have any more questions right now, what I would like to do is turn it over to President Hughes, who will offer his comments and analyzation of the 2007 budget.
Thank you, Ms. Wynn. Yeah, let's move into the parish president's presentation, and if there are any questions, we can bring them up when all is said and done. Okay?
That's good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gwen. I'm going to stay up here and give me moral support. We've been working a lot on this budget for months, as you realize, and thank the Finance Department and Don Heisel, our Chief Administrative Officer, for all the work they've done. Also, 3 members of the council met with us this week in reviewing these things. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of part of the message that's been attached. And we've included some charts this year that should help you understand some important considerations. As you know, we've gone through a transition year, not just at Lamar Dixon, but in a lot of things since the storms of 2005. And so I just want to highlight a couple things for you. On page 2 of the, if you look in your budget message tab, you'll see the some of the things that the charter requires that we present to you, our personnel plan for the year. And as we have reviewed, we've gone back 6 or 7 years with some things. We've gone back 3 or 4 years with others to look at the population trends, economic trends, petrochemical trends, etc. And we proposed a salary increase of 5% for people, and we're going to show you some charts here attached to this that more than justify this expense. And those of you who are in industry or in private business know what has happened with salaries since the storm throughout the area, and we have a workforce problem now, not just in Ascension Parish, but in several areas of South Louisiana. So not only are we competing for good people just in government, now we're competing in the private sector. You see some places like fast food restaurants now offering bonuses to people to go to work. We see engineering companies giving incentives to their employees to help recruit other employees, upwards of $2,000 or $3,000 to an existing employee. It's indicative of what situation we're in now with workforce development. Some of you realize I've been the Louisiana representative from the Police Jury Association on the Workforce Development Task Force that Governor Blanco appointed last year, and meetings with the Department of Labor and people from around the state as we talk about these things. Workforce development, an educated and trained workforce is a critical issue in our state now, and it's been accelerated since the storms of 2005. In addition, you notice a 24% increase, and if you turn to Exhibit A in the back of my report, we've included for your review and consideration, it's numbered Exhibit A2. In health insurance alone, since the year 2000, you see the annual increases that have occurred, and from 15% in the year 2000 to the lowest increase of 7% in the year 2003. And the amended budget for 06 is a 30% health insurance increase over last year. And you see the annual cost of living increase for employees is from 2.8% in 2000 to 3% last year. They've received something each year for the 7-year period, but that annual cost of living increase has been significantly lower just with their cost for health insurance. And it's now, in addition, while we're in the back here, we're talking about adding some people. In 2000, we had a census in the parish of about 76,000 people. We don't know exactly what we have today. We know it's in excess of 100,000 probably. And we also know that what we have tried to do is limit the size of government so it would not grow any faster than the population, building permits, etc. And I think to a great extent we've been successful in doing that. However, it's beginning to catch up with us now in the areas of building inspections. For example, last Thursday, 1 week ago today, we had 132 inspections, I think, in one day with 125 scheduled for the next Friday morning. And so in our building department alone, which is a self-generating, trying to make them a self-sufficient entity within parish government, so there's a need for more building inspectors. We have basically one subdivision building inspector for all the new subdivisions. So as we've analyzed this and asked our directors and various offices in the parish to present a budget this year that will, and of course in the drainage area we're adding some people. And we had cut back in '04 when revenues had taken a big decline for 3 years since 2001. And sometimes people get confused between those employees that we have or say grace over and those employees that maybe work in other agencies or indirectly connected to the government, but they're really not under the auspices of the parish president as such. And so we've broken out for you in this chart called Payroll, Salary, and Benefit Chart and Contract Labor. You'll see that we've showed you from the year 2003 actual payroll figures with those areas of government.
Where's that chart, Mr. President?
That's in the back of the message report.
A3?
It's entitled Payroll, Salary, and Benefit Chart and Contract Labor.
Exhibit A3.
Yes. And so you can see what has actually occurred in salaries since '03 for those people that are quote-unquote within parish government, where judicial branches, people that we may pay part of salaries, constables, justices of the peace, and so forth, have been removed from that. And one of the things we point out to you that's is interesting to say the least, but it's obviously a concern. You'll see from 2003 to the proposed budget for 2007 that fringe benefits as a percent of salaries has increased from 31.68% to 44.08%. So we're approaching now about 45% of a salary being in retirement. Just this year alone, for '07, the state has mandated another increase in the amount of money that we put into employees' retirement. And that increase, I think, is a little over 6%, right at 6%, just in the retirement area, the portion that we put in to their retirement plan. And then when you figure in workers' compensation, employment and unemployment compensation, health insurance, dental life program, you can see now we have, in basically a little over 3 years, fringe benefits have gone up significantly as a large part of the overall payroll expenses. Now, contract labor, which has been up and down some, has gone up in one of the areas that we found interesting, about a third. If you go to the next page, which is also Exhibit A3, specifically for contract labor history, you see that the 2000 budget is down significantly from the amended budget. But what's interesting about that is Fire District number 3, who is now paying a good many of their people who are working part-time in that fire department, that fire district, they're being paid as contract labor people. And so about 30%, 33% of the budget of contract labor the last couple of years has been in the area of Fire District number 3, which you as a governing authority have some jurisdiction over. We help administer it, but we don't hire or fire their people. You know, that's something they do within their individual fire district and fire department. Now, some other interesting things as you think about trying to limit the growth of government and the size of government and responding to the growth that is taking place in our parish. The capital projects budget, as you know, many of these projects were put on hold or delayed following the storms. And as we're trying to get back, we've done a lot of road projects in the last 33 months. We're trying to do even more, as well as drainage and other projects. You will receive, or you already have received, the 2006 road projects. And of course, 2007 would be determined working with you next year as far as parish roads, maintenance, and so forth. But of the $28 million plus for capital projects next year, over $15 million of that is in the road area. And And then you also see that some of that is involved in Fire District number 1 and number 3. If you go to Exhibit B, you see a recap of these capital projects. Now, hopefully we'll get all of these done between now and the end of the next year. And we will not have the delays, and some of these have been carried over. Someone mentioned, I think Gwen mentioned the franchise agreement for water that Mr. Owen signed that last Friday. The lawyers have it. They've accepted it. We'll get it to you maybe next Thursday, maybe the meeting afterwards for your consideration. But that will significantly improve our fire service, the number of fire hydrants that will be built in that capital program using the franchise money to pay for the installation and maintenance of 600 or 700 fire hydrants that are sorely needed in various parts of the parish, especially in areas where the high growth has occurred. And we're hoping that you will approve that in the next few weeks so that we can then sit down and begin what parts of the program will go first. And we have a 6-month period to get all that worked out with Ascension Water and Parish Water. Now, something else in conclusion, and I'm not going to mention a lot about Lamar Dixon tonight, just mention a couple things. Obviously, if you go back and remember the debates we had a year and a half or so ago on this, you recall that we were looking at a 3-year window. And so I caution you about being short-sighted and just looking at the short term on something like this. You've got to look long-term. And you got to look at the opportunities that are there over that 3-year window. And we said at the time it would take us at least 2 years, and that's before we had the disruptions caused by the hurricane. And if you paid any attention to the Office of Tourism and Culture and Recreation in our state under Lieutenant Governor Landrieu, since the storm, tourism and people coming to our state has really been significantly decreased, and it still is. And so part of the Louisiana Recovery Authority monies that we're receiving from the federal government, a meeting I had with the Lieutenant Governor recently, is going to be put into tourism, because a big part of the Louisiana economy was tourism related. And of course a big part of that segment of the economy was the New Orleans region, which was significantly impacted. And so a couple things that has happened there that has impacted this year at Lamar Dixon, in my opinion, in meeting with Mr. Thornton yesterday, and of course Mr. Thornton, who's the regional vice president for SMG, most of his energy and time has been spent since last August getting the Superdome back put together, and he reported on that yesterday. $187 million of our tax money was spent on that one building. And it's interesting that the Superdome has never been paid for, probably never will be paid for by the state. We've owned it since its inception. And one may argue that's good or bad, but when you look at the peripheral benefits of that facility in the state, New Orleans area, well, then you begin to see the big picture and you take your blinders off to just the small picture of what these kind of facilities have the potential of doing. And it would have been easy for the state, and I would be interested to know what I would have felt like doing if I was governor at the time, when you looked at that Superdome and the destruction that had taken place there. Do you try to make this thing work? See, and so it was the vision of SMG, the National Football League, Superdome Commission, with the support of the governor and the legislature, that said, okay, let's try this. Let's see if we can have this open by September. And they did it. And it's going to take similar type of vision and tough decisions for Lamar Dixon and our parish to be successful, but I'm convinced that it eventually will be. And I know that most of our citizens feel the same way. And so part of the budget next year includes a $65,000 appropriation from Senator Armadale and other state legislators that we have put in here to do a true master plan for the entire facility there. The unused land, undeveloped land currently, as well as what is there as a quote-unquote expo center. In addition, $500,000 has been put by the state in the capital outlay budget in priority 2, which we hope to convert, and Senator Armaday is arranging a meeting now with us, the legislative delegation, and the governor to talk specifically about some of these types of issues, because the state has, Congress has appropriated about $110 billion to the Gulf Coast region for hurricane relief. And so we're asking for a small part of that to help us buy Lamar Dixon, with the understanding it would be set aside to be used in the future for emergencies as well as local events. In my letter to the governor recently, and to members of Congress, they're all working with us to try to do that. We have $250,000 that finally came in this week. All the paperwork seems to have been done from the federal government toward the purchase of Lamar Dixon. Obviously, we want more than that before I even ask you to exercise the option, so we'll let that build up there. But we're hoping that we can get at least $2 million in a relatively short period of time toward that purchase of the facility, so that once we would exercise that option, and I hope you would choose to do that, and I know our citizens do as well, that the debt that we would carry would be no greater than the interest we're paying now. And the last thing I'll say about this particular issue is that those of you who keep up with financial markets and interest rates, when you're in a rising interest rate environment, which we have been in the last few months, where the federal government, the federal fiscal policies to try to control inflation, and what they do, one of the fiscal policies to do that is to raise interest rates, to slow down demand on borrowing. Now, for several months in a row, the Federal Reserve System raised rates. And since our rental rate was tied into a 100 basis point above LIBOR, obviously we're in a rising interest rate environment right after we signed the lease purchase agreement. If you notice, the last couple of meetings, they have not raised that rate. Okay. So that Federal Reserve rate, we're thinking, is stabilized now. No one knows for sure. Okay. So keep in mind what happens with inverted bond yields and what happens with interest rates between rising interest rate environments and environments in which interest rates are going down or are stabilized. One of the things we tried to do with this budget is how do we do comparison to surrounding parishes? What are our revenue streams? My previous life in business, one of the things we looked at is revenue per employee. That's difficult to probably do in government, but I think it's a critical factor in looking at, do you have adequate revenue to address the needs of the parish as it grows and moves forward? And so we looked at 5 or 6 parishes' revenue per capita. How much money do they have to spend for government services? And so you'll see Exhibit C. And I found this most interesting as we did this. And it's not going to be precisely exact, as Bert pointed out in some of his comments, because you got, like, for example, St. Charles and St. John have no municipalities. All of the parishes are unincorporated. Whereas in our parish we have 3, but many of the services we provide, for example, parish prison system, health units, mental health, are still provided in the city limits as well. And so it's hard to just break out everything and be exactly precise. But if you look, for example, in Ascension, and we used the last quote-unquote census number, Louisiana Tech, which is actually old now, July of 05, okay, to be conservative. But that's the last number we actually have. We'll get the number in February for July of 06. We have revenue per capita in Ascension Parish of about $554. That's counting everything, from money dedicated to major drainage, to roads, to fees, money dedicated for fire. Now, that's not taking excess money from our surpluses or from our balances. That's revenue that we anticipate coming in next year. Okay? Current revenue. Whereas a parish like St. James with 21,000, you see a revenue of $1,256 per capita. You see St. John with 942, St. Charles with 955. And it's something we've known for a long time. Probably a good bit of our money is being spent in East Baton Rouge Parish by our citizens. Their revenue per capita is $1,605. And that population number is probably not including Zachary, Baker, and now Central incorporated areas is not part of city parish government. So we hope you'll find this beneficial to you. Because looking at revenue streams is a critical part of having money available to provide service to our citizens. And I was fairly surprised that we were that far behind the surrounding parishes in our area along the river. Now, if we'd put in the budgets for the 3 municipalities, obviously those numbers would change, but then you got to go in and put things in for health services and mental health and other things that we do sometimes inside those municipalities. So, any questions at all on what we presented to you? Please read the entire message. If you got questions, just get with us.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest at one time, but Mr. Byriger, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Gwynn, something that just sticks out, page 2, public buildings utilities, 33.5% increase, particularly under major repairs. We transferred $300,000. Do we have some major repairs coming up? What are they?
We had transferred originally this $300,000 to a construction fund, an office building construction fund, and we closed it out, so we're transferring it back to the general fund.
Okay.
And I don't know if we have any particular specific projects at the moment, but
Key thing there, Jared, is a 33.5% increase. There's been an increase in utilities cost to the parish.
Yeah. That's not what you're talking about.
Is that what you're talking about, Jared?
no, he's talking about this right here.
Okay, but I didn't point out to you, but in utility cost, we budgeted for a whole lot more. And
Okay. Ms. Fontenot, you have a question.
Under Exhibit A3, under contract labor, under the general fund, in 203, we only had $12,377. The amended budget in 06 is $146,000, which is $63,500 above what we originally budgeted. I was just wondering, where did that money go and on what?
well, you see the breakdown there, Ms. Fontenot, by categories. You talking about just the general fund? Or
Just the general. I'm just talking about the general fund across the board from 2003 to 2006 amended budget.
We'll have to find it out for you. I don't recall.
It just seems like it's a very big increase from, over the last few years, and I'm just wondering why we need so much contract labor in that area. The other question just comment that I wanted, Exhibit C, where you give the breakdown of the 5 different parishes, it seems to me, though we are taking in a good bit of money with the population that we have, we're not doing as well with the per capita revenue as some of the other ones who have less money and have a higher increase in the per capita revenue. It just seems that even though we have a lot of money, we also have a lot that we need to be spending money on right now, too. So I'm just not understanding maybe exactly what this specific scenario is.
Well, what it's really showing is we don't have a lot of money per capita based on what's happening around us. When we compare ourselves to other parishes who may have a fairly stable population number, as our population is increasing, as people are moving in, the revenue being developed by that population is not expanding enough to provide the services. And that's why when we talk about alternative funding mechanisms for roads like impact fees or whatever we're talking about. There's a need there for revenue to help meet those needs. The numbers speak for themselves. Now, it's not an exact science here, but it indicates where we are in relationship in a given period of time with our revenue. And so now we're going to go back in the next few weeks and we're going to try to look at this and say at the 2000 census, when we had 76,000 people, what was the revenue per employee then? And how has that changed in the last 6 years where we have had a growth rate, actual population growth rate looks to be about 25 to 30% since then. Now, I think we'll find that the revenue stream has not grown at that same rate of growth.
Mr. Savoy, I knew you couldn't go too far with that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I knew you had to
Mr.
get into
President,
that.
on this last sheet on Exhibit C, where we looked at the surrounding parishes as far as per capita, and now that we've realized that we're low, does that mean that you'll support a proposition to support Lamar Dixon? A tax for Lamar Dixon?
Well, as you know, Mr. Savoy, I don't like new taxes as a conservative Republican, but I would certainly entertain this master plan coming together for us. But I want to really commend you guys for working with us and commend the finance department. You go back and look at actual expenses versus just budgets, you'll see that we've done an outstanding job of controlling cost with limited resources. And in a year and a half, we've made Lamar Dixon work, maybe not as well as we'd like, but without taxing our citizens additionally for that facility. Now, once we get a true master plan, if you guys go along with it, I'll make this commitment. I'm willing to entertain some things, but I'd rather see new revenue in the areas of roads and other things. I'd rather get our federal taxes and state taxes back than tax our citizens for, although we're going to have to put up some things. So.
Okay.
You tried to catch me. That's a good question, though.
And you heard it here first, folks.
I got a question too.
You have one, Mr.
One
Jones?
just quick comment. When you come back, Mr. President, with the surrounding parishes, if you would do the research, please, on Livingston.
We tried. They did not give us the numbers.
They didn't. Okay.
And go to the website. You can get some budgets, but it's really.
They're probably worse.
Oh, they're
off
worse.
than
I can tell you.
us.
I know they are. They have no industrial tax base, but we're working on that. We tried several. We just wanted to get a good overview.
Thank you, Mr. President.
And I know, as always, the administration, Ms. Gwen LeBlanc, will be available to answer any questions, discuss this budget. There's a lot in it. Please don't take it lightly. Look at it thoroughly and be prepared to ask questions, anything that you need to know. There it is. We got to live with this for a whole year. So, Mr. Joseph, I'm sitting here looking at you, and I feel for you because we've all been through this before.
He got it all down. He met with us an hour before the meeting. He doesn't have a question.
Probably got some requests, but no questions.
So, if you have no more questions for me, I'm going to excuse myself if I could and go eat a steak tonight. It's been a long time since I had one.
Thank you, Mr. Parish President.
And
so,
I would just like to close by reiterating what the chairman said. If you have any questions or want to come visit our office, we would be pleased to have you and to explain, go over the budget in more detail and explain it to you. What you have in front of you is a draft. Once we adopt the budget and once it becomes formal, we will reissue this booklet in its final form.
And since Mr. Savoy, I guess, does have one final question.
No, I just had a comment for the parish president. You're right, Mr. President. It's been a long time since you've had a steak.
I've been cooking beans for a long time. They invited me to eat a steak tonight, so you have more questions for me.
This has something to do about certain high school football
Yes,
games.
it does.
Who's winning and who's losing. And East Ascension beat Sandoval finally, so they get their steak tonight. Enjoy that, Mr. President.
Steve Broussard, I can't wait to eat it.
Chew 32 times. All right. Item number 9 is our monthly finance report. We're going to, because we did so in depth in the budget, we're going to
if you all don't mind, we'll take this kind of lightly. So
Right.
Ms. LeBlanc will just make this brief presentation to us.
Right, you have your report in front of you, and you can see the trend of increases in sales taxes continues. This is the month of September collections, which reflects August sales. Year-to-date, they were all three of our drainage, the sales taxes, East Ascension Drainage, our sales tax district number 1 and number 2, were all up over 23.5%. The same trend continues. There were no major audits involved. The increases are mainly due to motor vehicles. Their year-to-date equals 49.7% of collections. And the plants and the related businesses is 41.4%. I want to reiterate that 49%. I was talking about motor vehicles, but it's a combination of retail and motor vehicles is at 49.7% year-to-date of our collections represents. And the plants and the related businesses affiliated with the plants is 41.4%, and then just the general businesses is 9%. So if there's no questions, that'll be it.
So you have all that with you, and also the remaining funds, the revenue and expenditure guidelines. I think we all know how to go over that. You just take that with you and look it over. And
That's correct.
when you're making your call on the budget question, you can ask those additional questions.
That's right. Thank you.
Is that number, Mr. McConnell? I don't know. I have it on speed dial, Mr. Byerger. I just pressed an 8-pound send. Thank you. Okay. Item number 10. We have several contracts that we need to look at. We have Ms. Sandra Pereira, our paralegal, who's going to discuss it.
In detail.
Okay.
You could go ahead and take this, Ms. Sandra.
Okay. The first one, well, these three, well, four for mental health. First one is it's a new agreement to provide legal services, and I gave y'all each a packet. It kind of gives you a summary of each contract. 10A1, it's with Gordon Arata. It's, as you can see, it's on an as-needed basis to provide assistance for legal opinions for the Counseling and Substance Abuse Center, and it gives you it lists the specific things that they'll use this firm for.
Motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hillensbeck, seconded by Mr. Savoy to accept the contract noted here as 10A1 for Gordon Arata, McCollum, Duplantis, Egan, LP. Discussion? Is there any opposition?
Mr. McConnell, real quick, I'm sorry. Is this
Discussion,
like a
Mr. Byron.
specialty law needed? I'm just wondering why we don't use present counsel is the only question. Is there a specialty here?
I'll let the director come up.
I'm Susan Mittendorf, Director of Ascension Counseling. I'm the one and we're requesting the contract. We have some very specific issues that are going to be a bit time-consuming, and so we were talked to Mr. Babin and to Mr. Diaz, and they felt it would be a good idea for us to deal with Ms. G. Orlando, who's an expert in this area of the law. So specifically concerning our handling of emergency individuals and some regulatory issues that we've been struggling with.
And you have a cap of $8,000.
$8,000, yeah. We're not going to spend much money.
$8,000 annual cap on this contract.
At $175 an hour.
Is there any opposition? Then the motion passes. Ms. Suzanne, would you put that on the next council agenda? We have item A2.
This one is a cooperative endeavor agreement. It's new. It's between the Ascension Counseling Center, Families in Need of Services, and Truancy Assessment and Service Center. And it's still pending legal approval. And as you can see, there's no funds involved, but the center will provide 2 furnished offices to these 2 FINS and Truancy Assessment and Service Center.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Hillensbeck to recommend this to the full council pending legal approval. Is that a second, Mr. Savoy?
Yeah.
Second, and discussion?
Question, you saying, Ms. Sanders, you saying this is new? I thought we've been implementing the FINS program.
Again, Ms.
We've been
Mitchell.
funding the FINS program. This looks like it's just,
This is just the use of 2 vacant offices. It's for the Truancy Assessment Center, which is.
Oh, so that's the part you're talking about is new.
Right, that
Okay,
part is
that-
new.
this
FINS
this is not a funding
Okay.
item.
I'll just stay up here in case.
Yeah,
you-
just stay up here, Susan. All right. Is there any further discussion? Is there any opposition? Then the motion passes, Ms. Suzanne, if you would put that on the agenda for the next council meeting. Then we have item 10A3, and these are agreements between Ascension Parish Government and Doctors Donald Scheck-Snyder and J. Robert Barnes.
That's renewals?
And these are renewals.
So moved.
Motion.
Motion by Mr., I think it was motion by Mr. Thompson and second by Mr. Byriger. Is there discussion? Is there any opposition? Then that motion passes. Ms. Suzanne, if you would put that on the next council meeting, please. We have item 10B. This is a lease agreement between Ascension Parish, the Ascension Economic Development
So
Corporation,
moved.
and the Ascension Parish Tourist Center. It's motion by Mr. Byriger, second by Ms. Fontenot, that we accept this lease agreement. Is there discussion? Is there opposition? That motion passes. Suzanne, would you put that on there, please? What's the, what are we renting? Okay, here we go. It's $525 a month plus half the utilities.
Yes, and it's just a renewal.
Item 10C, East Ascension Drainage Agreement with New River Soil and Water Conservation District.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Savoy, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert to approve this agreement. Is there discussion? Is there any opposition? Then that motion passes. Item 10D, it's a subcontract agreement between the Parish of Ascension and the Quad Area Community Action Agency Incorporated for the Emergency Shelter Grants Program.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Mr. Kent Scheck-Snyder, second by Mr. Jerry Savoy. Is there any discussion? Is there any opposition? Then that motion passes. Ms. Suzanne, if you would put that on the agenda. And to the public out there, these are renewals. We're not kind of glossing over the people's business. Although this one we're going to gloss over. Item number 11 is the Cartograph Program Management. The DPW Director, Bill Rue, tells me that we are not ready to discuss that just yet, so we're going to pass on that. Item 12 is the proposed agenda for next week's regular council meeting, and Ms. Betty Robert has asked me to ask all of you to show up at 6:30 p.m. so that we can take a new photograph of the council, wear your Sunday best, clean shirt, all of that kind of stuff. Mr. Savoy?
Mr. Thompson, what's your schedule Thursday? You gonna be able to make the meeting?
Hey, sure, I'm not sure.
As of right now, I'm scheduled to work dogs. I'm gonna try to get off, so I may not be able to, but we're gonna try to take pictures Thursday. Okay.
And if we can't take pictures Thursday, we'll take them another day. Ain't a big deal. Okay? Please look this over, see if there's anything on here besides what was mentioned tonight. Mr. Thompson?
Yes, I'd like to put Pierce Road on your transportation agenda, load limit.
Okay, that's the next one.
Could you put it on the agenda to come to the full council, and Bill said he'd put it with the other roads?
Pierce Road, it's a load limit. Bill has a couple others. We'll
We got a
put it
couple
on
other
transportation.
roads that he,
Have no problem.
thank you.
So you want to add an item G? Ms. Fontenot, you're all right with that?
That's fine.
We'll add an item G,
Check with Bill, that's fine.
road load limits, and then if you could get with DPW Director Bill Rue, he'll tell you which ones they are.
He said Pierce Road, I think.
Pierce Road.
Pierce Road.
Yes, but if Bill has a couple of others you're telling me he wants to put on there, let's just put road load limits, and then you can get to the specific ones, and you know that there's Pierce Road. Anything else y'all want to add to the agenda for next week?
Mr. McConnell,
Mr.
I've got just an announcement. School Board Superintendent, Mr. Donald Sanjay, made contact with me, and he asked me to get in touch with all of y'all, and I had Ms. Suzanne. I think she handed y'all
Yeah, you
something
should
out
have
today.
that. That's in our packet.
They're asking us, for us to try to make their Tuesday, October 17th meeting, where they're going to talk about the growth impact, and they're going to start a brief meeting with presenting some projected enrollment numbers for the schools, and they just want us to sit in and listen, so we can come together, work together on some needs that the parish has got. So.
Spirit of cooperation. What's up with that? Yes, Ms. Fontenay?
I think that the Mental Health Board had asked me to put them on the agenda to bring us an updated report on mental health.
And
an updated, a report from the Mental Health Board.
It's required.
All right, for the third time, Ms. Hillenbeck makes a motion to adjourn, and so I'll accept it this time. We're adjourned.